Hey y'all, this is TCA Gaming, and in this video I am going to explore a little bit of what Pokemon was like over 10 years ago. Now I'm going to show you guys something called an eBay guide. We're going to have to go through archive.org just to be able to look at some of these things because they aren't around anymore. And then at the very end I'm going to show you guys some fake cards and how I used to determine what cards were fake, and then we might even open up some fake booster packs. Now if we go back in time, so check out this with the Wayback Machine. This is one of the original guides that I put out. Now, if you don't know what an eBay guide is, that's okay, because typically you would have to have been in pre-evolutions just to have any idea that these things existed and to have been selling on eBay. So if you made an eBay guide, then I want you to raise your hand and let me know in the comments, because I highly doubt that there are many of you who are watching my video who, like I said, even know what it is, but on top of that have ever made one. So eBay guides. Here's a breakdown of kind of what it is. An eBay guide is where you go in here and you would put information out there for the public to see. eBay would advertise it on Google or wherever. They would have their little SEO tags or whatever. And so if people clicked on it to read it for information, then it would redirect them a lot of times back to eBay. And so it was just a way to bring in external traffic. But also, I think they got rid of them because it could direct people away from eBay as well. And so I created many of these back in the beginning of when I'd been on eBay for 4 or 5 years at this point, and I wanted to communicate with my buyers certain questions that they had, and then also document certain information that people about certain sets that had been released. So the very first one I'm going to show you here is about the 4 position only test cards. And as you can see right here, like I basically listed out every card there was, kind of gave a picture, gave history on it, even linked to a YouTube video, which I don't even know if this is clickable anymore, where you could watch me open up one of the original packs and kind of go through the information. And I think that's why they might have removed these, because of that ability to be able to source out information and send people away from eBay itself. But you can see I had all the information here. I was able to talk about it. And what's cool about this is at the bottom you can still see some of the old, you could link to guides, and then over here I had some of the old sale prices. So this one was the Alakazam 4 position only test sample in mint condition, $279.99, way less than what it is now, but still a very formidable price for something that was around back in 2014. Now here's another one. So this is an eBay guide on uncut sheets. And if you guys notice up here, like you could vote. You could give it a thumbs up. If you gave it a thumbs up, that helped me out. And in fact, there used to be this little badge you could get that would say what kind of reviewer you were. If you got into the top 10,000 reviewers on eBay, like for the amount of votes that you got this little special thing that said top 10,000 reviewer. 5,000, 1,000. I got all the way up to the top 500. So I had this little badge that said I was a top 500 reviewer, or eBay guides reviewer, or something like that. And so it was kind of like a little bit of a competition type thing, a little bit of an honor to have that badge. And I really enjoyed making these because sometimes it would make it a lot easier for me to communicate with my buyers. And I'll go over that with you guys a little bit more here in the future. This particular guide, I was trying to document every uncut sheet that I got because I thought they were so cool, and I wanted to put the information out there because there wasn't that much. You can even see right here where I moved it. I made a whole second sheet to where all of the base set sheets went to its own guide. But you come down through here, you see the Neogenesis, Common, you got the Fossil, I kind of give the history, KB Toys, how many cards are on it, the price range in which you should expect, $250 to $650. We just saw that some of these were selling in the 5,000 range. Look, Neogenesis Common, $30 to $50, and yet one just sold on Heritage for over $5,000. Here's a Topps sheet, $15 to $50, super cheap. I just sold one of these for like $2,000. Jungle PCD price estimate. I didn't really put one out there, but this one's probably one of the more common sheets that you can find. Ancient Mew test sheet, estimated 800 to 1,500 plus. It's probably more than that, even at that time. Some test sheets that I had. Fossil, even had one here with the pink back. Sometimes the images don't always come through. Japanese Team Rocket. I removed the price on this one because the person that I sold it to asked me to. But I can say that I originally bought it for $250. And this isn't just a 4x4. This is 4 sections, so a 2x2 of 4x4. So this is a full Japanese hollow uncut sheet. And And then there's more. I can't show you everything because like all the pictures aren't here, but let's see if there's anything cool at the bottom. Yeah, Pokemon full uncut card sheet, Neo Genesis common, $59.99. So I used to be selling them multiples at this low price range. Another one that I used to do. So what's a shadowless Pokemon card? So this was a question that I got almost as much as probably everything else combined. Back in the day when I was selling all kinds of singles, shadowless cards, it was still kind of new to the hobby. You know, this is something that Gary King Pokemon tried to get established with PSA early on, and it wasn't until, I mean, it's been a few years at this point, but a lot of the original cards that were graded that were base set, there was no distinction between unlimited regular and unlimited shadowless. And so people didn't fully get it. And back then grading really wasn't a thing either. So coming down through here, you know, I show a first edition, I show an unlimited shadowless, and then I show a regular. And then I explain kind of what it is, and I give, you know, tips on how to figure out how a card is shadowless. One, you check for the shadow. You know, that's where the name comes from. And, you know, it kind of points in there. It goes over it a little bit. The dates tells you how you can look at the bottom, figure out if it's shadowless that way. Because if you look at a trainer card, you can't exactly tell the difference because there is no shadow box on a trainer card. The font is different. Usually like the color is as well. And then the exception. So it goes through how Machamp, both the first edition for the shadowed or it is first edition for both shadowed and shadowless. So you can't really tell a difference there. There's no such thing as an unlimited shadowless Machamp. Now there is an unlimited trainer deck, a Machamp, which is super rare, but the back has red markings all over it. And then let's see at the bottom, you can see right here, an item finder. First edition shadowless base set, near mint, $9.99. That's still pretty cheap, I would say, today, but we haven't seen like a crazy explosion in price like we did with the uncut sheet. Sometimes I would use these just to document stuff. So like with the FPO, I was able to document it there, but like with the match prints, these are cards that are super, super rare. And I've got a video in here. I explain where they come from, what I was told by the designer who saved them, you know, how they come about. Give pictures here and there. And then what's cool about something like this is I go through and I list every card and the exact quantity. So Alakazam number 33, there were exactly 2 of those cards. And I go down and I list, because not every card from Expedition had a match print. Most people haven't even heard of these things, and some had 4 cards. And so, you know, I give a few pictures. You can kind of check them out. And some of that stuff did stick around. There's that Alakazam 4 position only again. Sometimes I would document information like this for the English Black Star promo, because this was something I actively pursued and I thought was really cool because there's so many variations of some of these promos. Just to give you an example, look at Pikachu number 1. So this is the Ivy Pikachu. You've got the regular one, and then this is without a variation, so I put a little dash right there, but it come in a brick of 1,000, in which I believe it could be brick, it might be 900. So I've never actually broke a brick and counted out every single card, but it could be a 900 count brick, because I think that's what it is for the Bumblebee Pikachu number 27. But there's also a first edition variation. Sorry, my voice is going hoarse. I recorded all these videos in one day. There was like 3 or 4 of them, and I found out audio was off on all of them. So I'm not used to talking this much. And I had a tooth crowned yesterday, so it's kind of hurting my jaw. But first edition Jungle Box, you know, that's the way that you could get it. And then there was also the Gray Star Pikachu, which you could get from the Cora magazine. It says Japanese card stock, but all of these cards are in English. So what we're talking about here is an English card that had Japanese stock, but it's very hard to find, and not many people know about it. So a lot of this stuff that I'm putting in here, like the inverted WB gold stamp, we don't even know for sure. Like if the original packaging had to be the Catch Me reverse insert, although we know that it can come in there now, that'd be something I might update if this was still a thing and they hadn't been deleted and wiped from the internet. We don't know for sure where it's at, but a lot of this information can get lost to time, and sometimes there's not a way to find it all consolidated in one place. And so these guides were helpful for me because I could direct buyers there, I could talk about it, and I could also go there and update this information myself. So I had an organized place just to look at it. And as you go down through here, you'll see more cards. Like this one is really cool, the Meowth, the Junior Railroad non-holo. Most of you probably don't even know that this card exists, but if you're around during that time, it might be, you know, common knowledge. But there is a number 10 Meowth. We know it as the holographic one from the Game Boy, but you can also get it. You could have got this in Japan as an English card release. They come with a little lanyard and a booklet, and I think I actually have a picture of this one. Same thing with Eevee and Mewtwo. You could get a non-holographic Eevee number 11 with Japanese card stock that was released. It was the Junior Rally. And there's other cards like that as well, talking about how they have different releases and different versions. And so if we come down here, like I give a few pictures and kind of explain them. So like this is the Pikachu with the gray star that I was talking about. It has a legitimate gray star. Like it's not just slightly grayed out. The card stock is glossy. It's a completely different card. And you can see it doesn't have a number 1 here in the bottom right-hand corner. Here's one of the inverted cards. You can see the Dragonite, the Electabuzz, the Mewtwo. So it shows all these stamps being inverted, the different types of promo type releases with the inserts. Here's the Jigglypuff with the gray stamp. Oh, here's the Meowth right here. You got the Junior Railroad. It comes in that little pouch. And then you have the booklet in the background and the train ticket. So that was like a really cool card. Here's the difference in the Eevee. You have the holo version versus the non-holo. The no HP Dark Persian. And just different things like that. And I found it it's very useful, very convenient, and something that I could send to buyers. Now, this is a sheet that I was actively always working on, one that I put a lot of effort into, but it is so out of date now. Like some of these things, you guys might not even know what's on here. So it started getting confusing during the black and white era because there were so many different terms that were being used that were thrown around in titles, and sometimes people didn't even know what was going on. So you had the basic rarity where you had commons with the dot, you had uncommons with the diamond, rare with the star. That used to be all it was. Then you had like the triple star that was introduced with the shinings, but ultra rare kept getting thrown into titles when people were using ultra rare to describe a broad subject of different types of cards. So like A-Spec, that was considered an ultra rare. It was something that came out during the black and white era. You had this wasn't considered an ultra rare, but like this cracked dice, we still hadn't figured out which term was best, but it could be cracked dice, it could be shattered hollow, it could be 3D, it could be crystal shard, and all of those kind of described this holofoil pattern where it looked like, you know, there was these ice shards kind of going off in the background of the hollow. You had crystal hollows and reverse hollows. EX, this is the original EX. Some of you may not even know that it stands for extra, and it was something that was added on to the end of the name, and this is for when Pokemon had extra points beyond 120. So up until this point, no Pokemon had over 120 HP. So when Generation 3 come through, they made EX Pokemon. This is lowercase EX. And that lowercase EX also indicates that they could be an evolution Pokemon. So you see right here, Charizard evolves from Charmeleon. Whereas the big uppercase EX for the black and white era, so Generation 5, meant that they were all basics. And then with the uppercase EXs, you could also have regular arts and you could have full arts as well. So you didn't have the full arts back in the EX era, the lowercase EX era, Generation 3. There's like full art, gold stars. It just kind of went through all this different thing. You might see holo rare, talks about, you know, what a holo rare is. I believe at the time that this went inactive, I still need to upgrade. I need to put flare cards in there that come about like Phantom Forces. There were flares, and there was other stuff too. Missing pictures down here: Legend Half Arts, Level X's, Mega EXs, non-holo rare. I bet you guys don't even know what this is. Parallel holo. So during Generation 3, you didn't have regular reverse holos. Once you get past, I want to say Team Magma, Team Aqua, you did have reverse holos when you started off Generation 3 with Ruby and Sapphire, Sandstorm, Dragon, Team Magma, Team Aqua. But once you got to, I think it was either Fire Red, Leaf Green, or Hidden Legends, you started having parallel holos. So if you look right here, this is from Fire Red, Leaf Green. The holo is inside of the picture like a regular holo. But some of them were, you could figure out if it was a parallel holo by, you've got like the little energy symbols right there. And in later sets, they actually stuck the set name on the card itself. So like this says EX Emerald, the name is holo, and then the star down here, you can't see it, is also holographic as well. So those were your reverse holos, but that's not actually what they were, since they weren't reverse holo, they were parallel holo. But nobody ever used that term in the title. It never stuck. Reverse holo had already kind of been cemented in there, which started in Legendary Collection. And then there's others. So let's scroll all the way to the bottom and just see if there's anything down here to look at. Oh, I don't even, oh, there we go. So we got Electabuzz, $295 for the sealed promo. It has went up a lot since then, but that was still kind of reasonable compared to what it was. Now, this is the cool one. This is the one that I used the most out of all of my guides. So, is my Pokemon card real or fake? So, I went through different ways to figure out if your card was fake by showing the typical indicators that almost anybody could check on a card. especially if you're like a grandparent or a mom and you get cards, you probably don't know what's fake, even though a lot of this stuff seems pretty obvious to us. So looking at this picture, you'd be like, yeah, I know that those are fake. Like, that's supposed to be full art hollow. That's supposed to be hollow. That looks smooth. It's not supposed to be smooth. But the problem with it is, if you were coming new into it, you really don't know. It's kind of like if I was to pick up some fake MetaZoo cards, I probably wouldn't know. It's still new to me. Like, this is all something that I'm still getting into. I first showed this right here. This is one of the OG fakes. You have the Charizard with this weird background holofoil. And I kind of show how, if you look at the back side, there's going to be color differences. If you look right here, it says what to look for. Faded blue borders, size variation, and then obvious differences from a card known to be real. So you used to be able to take cards and put them in a stack, and the fake card would be slightly bigger. Right here. So this one's missing the TM mark, so the trademark mark. And that's why I was very wary of those uncut sheets that come from the roll, because they were missing the TM. And I just didn't understand why that wouldn't be there. So to me, this was like a known red flag from back in the day. So why wouldn't it still be a red flag? Right here, this one I believe has like incorrect punctuation. And so I outlined it there, what to look for: incorrect punctuation, misspelling, different font, missing trademarks, that kind of stuff. Usually that's pretty easy to figure out. This was the easiest test to ever do. This was probably the most well-known test. If you took a card and you held it up to light and you could see the whole card through fairly easy, then it was likely counterfeit. Now, I know Japanese cards have a thinner stock, so it wasn't always definite, but with English cards especially, if you saw the whole card like this and the light wasn't even really that strong, then you knew for sure that it was going to be counterfeit. And the reason being is because if you rip the card in half, don't go rip your card in half. There's other ways to tell. It's missing this black ink strip. This is more for demonstration purposes, so I could show them why it was being translucent. The fake cards are made with a cheaper stock, and they don't have that blue or black strip. Now, you can take the card and you can hold it sideways and actually see it with your eyes, but if you rip it in half, you know for sure. Like, if you have fake cards and you're like, I know this is fake, you can show it to somebody, and it's a lot more visible to somebody who's trying to be convinced that the card itself is real. However, I wouldn't recommend doing that. Just look at it. Once you rip the card in half, you can't unrip it if you made a mistake. Also, there was fake first edition stamps going around. So if you look at this Charizard Machamp, from this grainy picture, you might not be able to tell. But if you scroll down here, this picture shows it a little bit better. The font on the EDITION is quite obviously different from the one that's over here on the Machamp. Just for reference, like, this is the real stamp, this is a counterfeit stamp. I even had a video right here how to remove a fake first edition stamp, and I'm going to show you those cards because I still have them. But this was, again, very useful for me to send to people who were wanting to know what was going on and how to determine if something was fake. This was almost invaluable to me. I was quite upset when they did away with it. But here's the binder. I actually kept almost all of this stuff, and it just kind of sits in my shop now. But there's that Charizard. Here's some fake cards for Gen 1. But, like, look at this right here. So here we have a Ninetales. This is the one that I show in that video. That video is still on YouTube, by the way, if you want to look at it. Let me see if I can zoom in all the way. So you can see where I removed the first edition stamp off of this Ninetales, and all I did was scratch it. The Ninetales itself is real. And here's the Venusaur. I may have scratched a little too hard, but this one was also a fake stamp. It had been stuck on the Venusaur itself. Let me zoom back out. And also, here's another reference point. Let me go back to Google Chrome just for a second. I think I said something here at the bottom. Yeah, the fact that someone took a $15 shadowless Charizard and put a first edition stamp on it means there must be others out there. So at the time, shadowless Charizards were $15. And it would mark it up to probably about the $150 range for a first edition. Maybe a little bit more, since this was 2014 maybe. I'm thinking that's about the time that it was. And so that price itself just kind of gives you an idea of like where we were in the Pokemon hobby. And there just weren't many expensive cards. So if you to take a card from $15 to say $150, then that was a 10x jump for just putting a fake stamp on something. But also check this out right here. Here is that Pikachu and Dratini. I still have that sitting in here from back in the day. But let's go through this binder a little bit. Let's see if I can zoom all the way out. That's as far as I'm going to get. But you can see here's some Generation 1 energy cards. Hopefully my mic is still on. You can see right here we've got some jungle stuff. And what's cool about these fakes, it helped determine one error that didn't exist. So there used to be people who believed there was a Raichu and an Amistar that had a specific error on it they believed to be a legitimate, like, repeated error. It was that there was a first edition stamp on the bottom half of the card. You can see it right here. If I zoom in a little bit more. So that first edition stamp, it used to go around people saying, hey, you can get Raichu and Amistar with this first edition stamp, and I think I've seen an Ammonite as well. But this is a fake card, and I said, let's take a closer look at the known examples for these things, and we determined that everyone that had this was actually a fake card. So it's one of those errors that was debunked to have existed. Now, maybe there's some out there, but none have actually made it to the surface at this point. This is a vending series card. Don't know if those were officially licensed, but they're definitely not real cards. Here we got Generation 3. Let's zoom back out. You can kind of see how they've started to evolve a little bit at this point. Even have some parallel hollows or reverse hollows, because that's what people still call them. There's the pack that I opened up in that video I had to delete. So we'll open up one still in this video at the very end. Want to make sure you guys get to see that, because it's kind of cool seeing what they stick in there. Here's a Metagross EX. Here's some Generation 4. I used to keep them sorted by generation so that I could just refer back to it and make notes as things changed, as the cards got newer and newer. Here's some of the Generation 5 stuff. You have the ones from the guide that was at the very top. Like, that's obviously a fake. I mean, Bianca's not hollow right there. It's not full art. Going back to some Generation 4 there. Here's Generation 6. We've got Roaring Skies, XY base set. And let's open up Primal Clash. I did open up a Roaring Skies in the previous one. And then here's some more. I had a lot of base set 2 stuff that I pulled from a box. So we're actually going to open up a base set 2 fake booster pack as well. And we're going to talk about the characteristics of what should be in base set 2. Some of you will know this information, but again, I like to repeat some of this stuff just so that things don't get lost to history. All right, so since base set 2 is probably the most common pack that you've seen opened up as a fake card or as counterfeit, let's do that one first. The hollows should be on the front, so we're going to pop that into the back. So right off the bat, seeing this card with the base set 2, you know it's fake, because base set 2 was comprised of only jungle and base set. This is fossil. Horsey come out in fossil, so it can't be inside of base set 2. And then, of course, everything else tells you it's fake. I mean, there's nothing about this that looks real. Slowpoke again was from fossil. Oop, an upside down Caterpie, and it's shadowless from base set 2. We've got a coughing shadowless, Staryu shadowless, maintenance, lightning energy, Bellsprout, and nice, we pull a Scyther. That's a pretty cool looking fake. All right, let's go on to Primal Clash. The packs themselves are pretty poorly made. All right, so we have Vulpix, Combuskin, Slugma, Ninetales, Magcargo. If you guys don't know, Primal Clash had, I believe it was 5 Ancient Trait non-hollows. This one, I want to say, was a hollow. Maybe it wasn't. But like, you could get a Torchic, Electrix, a few other cards like that. But the Ancient Trait was like a full art card, so it was kind of cool to get it in the common and uncommon slot. Yep, there's the Torchic right there. This one's an uncommon. There's the Medicham, Mr. Mime, and then I thought that was Breakthrough. But we have Vanillux right there. This isn't even from the right era. This is black and white. Was that Plasma Storm? Maybe Plasma Freeze. I think it's Plasma Storm. No, it's one of the plasmas, I believe. Vanillish, not Vanillux. So we got a black and white card in the Primal Clash pack. Next up, we have Hidden Legends. All right, so we have Rhyhorn, Snowcloud, Totodile, Seedot, Chimecho, Gulpin, another cast form, Surskit, and Meditite. You know what's cool about the fakes today? At least they put some really cool cards in there. I didn't even get a holographic rare. I just got a reverse holo common Meditite. So that's not cool. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for listening to me ramble on about some of this stuff. But I just want to show you guys what it was kind of like 10 years ago. from the selling side, I got to provide these guides. It was cool because I got to put information out there. But now, information is everywhere. But back then, it wasn't the case, and it's kind of cool just to look back and see the prices, see how things were done, and just to look at these counterfeits. And if you ever have trouble with counterfeit cards, there's a lot of information out there. But as always, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this kind of video.